Hello and welcome to this podcast episode. Have you ever wondered how a cleaning business may be different during the startup, during the first few years than it is after that? Have you ever felt like you want to give up the business and go into something else? Do you want an elf business, easy, lucrative, and fun, as opposed to a half business, hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating? Today, I am speaking with Hume and Annette Marchionda. Friends I've known for 15 years and owners of Professional Cleaning Specialists of Niagara. I want to welcome you both to the Rich Cleaner podcast episode and to thank you for being with us today.
Well, thank you, Tim. It's our pleasure and nice to be speaking with you again.
Yeah, we've hung out a little bit before. We've had some good times. So you were members of the Platinum Plus program for a number of years. We spent a lot of time together in those meetings and at boot camps. So anyway, it's great to be with you. If you would begin, because I've got some questions that I want to ask you. You have such great insight. First of all, tell us what your company does. Of course, it's cleaning, but tell us what you do. Tell us how long you've been in the business as well.
Go ahead.
Well, we've been kicking around for 26 years. We actually celebrated 25 years. And the first 12 years was a classic half business. At the end of 12 years, we were about $250,000 a year. Didn't like our clients, couldn't get prices up. It was, we did no organization. And by then, Annette had joined, and we were primarily carpet cleaning at that time, upholstery as well. About 50% residential, 50% commercial. And we've maintained that split over the years. I think it's a healthy split. It helps spread business over the years. But we joined Piranha in 2005 and have never looked back, quite frankly. We learned how to market. We also really started doing planning back then, business planning, because as a startup, keeping it simple is hoping to make money each year isn't a plan. You have to have a plan. Mm-hmm. And so every year we go off in November and spend a week putting our whole plan down for the following year, financial and marketing and everything else. But over the years, since we've been in Piranha, we've started developing area rug cleaning business. We do a lot of upholstery. Everybody, I think, in the cleaning industry now is doing tile and grout, as do we. We also have added doing marble restoration as well. So we used to be Professional Carpet Systems. We changed it to PCS of Niagara to get the carpet out of that word. So, we use eat on it, sleep on it, sit on it, or walk on it. We can look after it.
Oh, that's good. I like that. So your life, and I want to mention, by the way, that you are former champions, winners of Joe's Better Your Best contest as part of the Platinum Plus program. You drove off with a beautiful red Corvette, and I know you have a picture in your background even now. I'm looking at you, Annette and Len and the police officer who gives us tickets all the time. But you bettered your best. You went to higher levels of success. So you are extremely credible. Really, I think you had 12 or 13 years. This is really interesting. 12 or 13 years before Piranha and 12 years after Piranha. So I think it would be instructive to kind of look at this. What was your business like before Piranha? A lot of individuals who are listening to this podcast episode, they're relatively new in business. And then there's others who are in kind of a growth stage. And then there's others in more of that mature stage. So you've been kind of in all three. So I think that you're going to be able to give some really good insights that'll be helpful to all who are listening. But if you could actually tell us a little bit about kind of the beginning of your business. What was it like the first several years of your business? And we could even say the first 5, we could say the first 13 before Piranha, because it sounds like they were kind of the same at 5 years as it was at 13. But tell us a little bit more about what the business looked like then.
Well, it started with just me and a little, in a small truck and portable equipment. And I would go and find my own jobs. And I used an answering service to, I used voicemail. So I wouldn't get live calls. I would take messages and go out and find my own work and do the work. And did that for about 3 years. And we hired our first person because we had some hotel work. And about 5 years in, we bought our first truck mount. And I think we were 3 people then.
Mm-hmm.
We still were using an answering service and pagers, and that we weren't answering live. And there's an aha there. Annette came on board with us because she was doing something else about 8 or 9 years in, and started answering the phones, and the business just like that took a big jump.
Interesting.
Because when people phone, they were interested.
Yeah.
And that, remember, it was a real aha moment for us. All the time we've been taking people's numbers, and when they called us when they wanted an answer. So,
yeah.
We were still working out of our house at that time too. And but it was, someone was phoning and they were interested because they were interested at that moment. So it was easy to, educate them, and be able to get the job, because at that time, a lot of clients would, phone, and if they got someone, and still today, they phone, they don't get a human voice, they'll hang up and try again. Although there's other varying factors today that's happening with social media and reviews and things like that, that why people will call you specifically. But that about 20%, I think, increased our residential
just immediately that year, just answering our own.
Isn't that interesting? That's insightful. And we're doing that, and we bought 2 more truck mounts in 3 years running. And we were pretty good at writing business plans and convincing people to lend us money to buy this equipment. But so there's knowing how to borrow money, or knowing where there's sources of funds is very helpful, because you're leveraging someone else's money to grow. Yeah.
But as we got to the 250 to 300,000 mark, we were answering our own phone calls. We were doing audits before we went to do the work. And we do, to this day, we still do that. So we'll go out and price the job for a new client before we ever do the work. Back in the day, we were also charging by the square foot and not the room. And when you go to do audits, that's easy to do that. People understand square foot too. The more I'm going to clean, the more it's going to cost you. So. But by the end of about the 12th year, before we got involved with Prawn and really started doing our better planning, it was awful. We didn't have systems in place. We were trying to get them in place, right, Annette?
What kind of systems, when you say systems?
Oh, boy.
Well, everything. And that was going to be one of my things for new businesses to start out, whether it's yourself or just one other person, to really start documenting everything you do and how you do it. So it's easier to pass that on to a new employee. And that's everything, how you want your phones answered when you do hire that person to answer your phones, how you're doing the cleaning, how you're ordering, your maintenance, and then it just gets more and more involved. You're hiring,
but back at the start, it's as simple as a checklist. What is supposed to be in the truck? Developing good habits through checklists and okay, today we have a tile and grout job. What is the kit? that we need to pull together out of our garage or out of the shop to make sure we don't get to the job and not have the right equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So those sort of things were real basic, and especially as new people come on board, because we were then maybe about three or four people in production and ourselves by the end of the 12 years. And but we had trouble getting our prices up because we weren't marketing properly. So that was, we were doing a lot of work and we weren't getting our monies for it.
Yeah. So in retrospect, if you were giving advice to Len and Annette from the first day that you were starting your business, and you've already really articulated some advice that you would give, and you're giving to others now. But in retrospect, what would you start doing day one that you weren't doing years later? What would have made it less hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating from the very first day?
Very first thing, I would get a CRM. I'd get something that keeps track of my customers and allows me to do the invoicing and all of that. And there's choices galore today, but I don't. Monster.
Service Monster.
Service Monster is one. There's another one that's been around for years. Service CEO is another one. And they're all reasonably priced now, and they're all in the cloud, so you don't have to have a lot of computers. You can do it portable. I do that right from day one.
Day one.
Well, so just before you go on, I think that's really instructive, because prior to that, you would have just had like maybe 3x5 cards with the person's names on it or something like that.
Written invoice, and then it would just get filed somewhere. And one thing leads to another. Once you have your client database, then all of them, you're able to market from that.
Yes.
So it's kind of a twofold thing. So once you have an area that you have all your client database in one place, then you're able to market to your database as well as marketing to bring in to the funnel, and then marketing to your existing, is you have to be doing both all the time. But if you don't have that information, then how can you market to your existing clients? Which
that's a great example of half versus ELF. If you can make the marketing easy and really on autopilot, it changes the game, doesn't it?
And some of today's models will you'll give them a budget for, say, postcards or what have you, and they'll just look at it. Gets out. You do it yourself. You think you're going to do it, but I'm too tired tonight. I'm going home.
Yeah.
So that would be number one. It doesn't matter whether you only have 100 clients or 10,000 clients. Knowing what you've done for them is critically important.
Mm-hmm.
Which also falls into being able to get your financial information too, probably from that whole same database. So it's actually threefold: marketing, client retention, and financials can all be spun from that one thing.
What else would you tell us?
I would tell us, as soon as you can, to answer your phones as live as possible. Mm-hmm. Two of the biggest things that I have to mention, which brings us back to Joe and Piranha, is have your network of mentors and coaches. You have to have mentors and coaches. Mm-hmm. So Joe has been one of our mentors, as well as people in the group. Mm-hmm. And coaches. We talked about doing our financial planning. So we had a financial coach. We've had coaches through our banking facilities and to this day, we are still doing that. So if you start that off immediately and continue that, because as things change, you need different coaches and you need different levels of mentoring and coaching.
And it did at the start, one person starting out, I mean, local colleges, the bank, I'm sure there's volunteer mentors and things like that too, business clubs or something like that. Anything where you keep the conversation on the business. That's
yeah,
you know. So
that's great.
It may not be expensive, I don't think, and because I know when you start up, you don't have a lot of money for it. So
yeah,
you look to people who you feel are successful and go ask them a question. What might I do? How can I help you first, and then would you give me some advice?
Yeah, that's excellent. In a previous podcast episode, actually, multiple spoke about Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, some of those principles that he found as commonalities between the most successful people in the world. And you've hit on a couple. One is a Mastermind Alliance. So Mastermind Alliance is, that coach and those coaches, you get help, you learn from your peers, you're part of it as well. Another is being goal-oriented. And I think that that's a big thing that you did. Even, before we push the record button on this podcast episode, you were talking about in November how you go away and you do some planning. Tell us about that. First of all, tell us what you do and the importance of that.
That is where we plan our whole year, starting in January the following year. So a number of things come out of it. We do a complete fiscal budget for the year. What are our sales going to be? Well, then you got to step back and think, well, how are we going to get those sales? So you break it up and identify targets you want to go after over the course of the year. Well, now you've got your targets. What is your marketing and business plan going to be for the year? And are you going to have to add more equipment next year? Are we going to have to do a new hire? All of those things. So we get away, spend a week in a really nice spot. And there's other folks, some of them are past Better Your Best folks as well. And we usually a group of about 30 entrepreneurs together. We all are working on our own stuff, but there's a lot of interaction and good stuff good conversations go on. It's like the boot camp advanced with a very small group, like the Prana boot camp advanced. So when you're in that spot, you may as well enjoy the weather, because we do it where it's warm, and B, enjoy the company of people who are smart as you and smarter, and get your plan together. And for the first time ever, because we've done budgets every year for the past 12 years or so.
Oh, more.
First time in history, January, February, and March, we beat our budget.
Oh,
so which is celebration time, but that's an aside. But so we go into January knowing what we plan on doing, and part of that's we know what we did last year. We know what clients we had last year. We should better get them back again, and then how are we going to grow? So that's what that whole week is about. And knowing that you probably shoot for more than you're ever going to get done, but there's nothing wrong with shooting high.
Yes. That's great. I like that. Before I forget, so just to review here, I mean, you've spoken about answering your phones live, how that was a monumental change in your business, having systems, mentors, mastermind groups, management software, marketing, planning for the entire year in advance, shooting high. You've hit us with a lot of stuff, and those apply to, I mean, just in 10 minutes, you've hit some really good points. And so this applies to individuals who are just starting, but you look at this and you say, okay, this applies, of course, to individuals in that growth phase and in the mature phase. These are things that you do. Before I forget, I want to ask you, because there have been times, I think you mentioned to me before, that you felt like quitting, like, hey, we're out of here, this is enough. what was it that caused you to feel that way, and what did you do to change that and stay in the business and do so much better?
I'll let you answer that. Well, I'll do the first one. Back before we joined Piranha, I mean, we were ready. The amount of money we were making from this, either of us could have gone and got jobs doing something else without, the long hours and everything else. It was just, but we didn't, it was, failure is not an option. So that was before Piranha. There's probably time since too.
Yeah, well, I mean, we actually we were interviewing for a position just a few days ago, and he said, well, what made you keep going? And there's still some, Tim, we talked about, it's not always ELF every day, even now.
Mm-hmm.
Is it absolutely better? Yes, but there's new challenges that you're faced with as you grow, different challenges. But, nothing is perfect, but it's what you learn from your coaches and mentors to, push through some of those times, get over the hill there, and look back and see how much further you've come, as opposed to keep looking how much you have to go. So you learn some of those things. So that gives you the insight to keep moving ahead. And, it's just sheer will and tenacity. And as Len mentioned, just failure is not an option in moving forward. I mean, we both always have a willingness to serve and be the absolute best customer service company we can be. And we strive for that every day.
Yeah.
So to that end, not everyone's your client. So that's another thing, people. If we could pass on another tidbit to, new and growing businesses. So that comes in with marketing, but not everyone's your client, and that's okay.
That's great.
When we go out and do estimates, we feel if we close 65% of them, turn them into jobs, that's probably good. If we were closing them all, then our price is too low. So a couple of things. We started increasing prices after we joined Piranha.
Yes,
and that helped get us through it, because we were answering the question of how we got through the bad times. We'd get angry one day and say, we put our prices up, we get more business. No, literally, there was, I don't know whether it's a pride of spending or just because our prices were higher, we were doing a better job. I don't know. Another thing that kept us from quitting, I think sometimes, because every company, you run into problems. You got to dissatisfy your client. There's somebody to run at the problems and get them out of your way. If it takes a few dollars to solve them, spend it and move on. Don't let things sit in the back of your head, because that can drag you down so much. So get your prices up and look after the problems fast.
That's fantastic. So to recap, I asked you a simple question. You gave some really good stuff on that one. Failure's not an option. And so again, going back to Napoleon Hill, burning desire, it's kind of like, hey, we've got a burning desire here. We're going to be successful here. Failure's not an option. Annette said will and tenacity. I like some of your other comments. Nothing is perfect, and that's okay. Push through the tough times. Things are not always easy, lucrative, and fun. Being your willingness to serve. I love that, Annette, to be the best customer service company you possibly can be. Not everyone is your client. I like the increased prices. So many people are afraid to do that. They think that they're going to lose all of their clients, and it doesn't happen that way. I mean, Len, you said you got more business And when you increased your prices, and I like, some people it's a pride of spending, but also I like what you said, which was when we raised our prices, maybe we did a better job. We took more pride in the work that we were doing. And then you also say when problems come up, challenges, and they always do, handle them right away. Don't let them fester. So segment 2 of this podcast episode, you hit us with some really good stuff too. I want to get to, first of all, I don't know that you've mentioned it yet. You said that before Piranha, before you got involved with that, which is today the elite, Piranha Elite Cleaner System is kind of what we call it, but the equivalent of that back in the day, you were doing about 250,000, maybe 300,000. And then you went to, what is your company today in terms of revenue?
Our budget this year is 1,250,000 thereabouts.
So you have 5 times your business on the way to 10 timing. We like to talk about 10x. That is phenomenal. And so you say it's not all. I mean, some people would say that and say, "Oh my gosh, they're doing a $1.25 million a year. It's got to be easy, lucrative, and fun." And sometimes it's still half hard, annoying, lucrative, and frustrating. But you know what? You stay at it because you know that as you continue on, you're going to be able to overcome the challenges and go even to another level. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say. In fact, we were at a sort of a plateau. There's this beginning stage, growth stage, mature stage. We were at a bit of a mature stage a couple or 3 years ago. We got bored. So we added another business. We bought another business, and we doubled the size of our building a year ago and we bought another truck mount. So now we're on a big, huge growth thing again. And so
I love it.
So you don't do that if there isn't a lot of elf in there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
Well, just one of the things I missed saying earlier, and it's not the right time to say it, but uniforms. Whether they're polo shirts, everybody should be dressed the same. And, up here, I don't know about the States, up here, khaki pants or one of those pants with the pockets in it, not blue jeans, but the new pants we have that have the...
Come on, Annette, you're supposed to know the answer to that.
Anyway, uniforms has helped make, because it's mentioned to me when we've had 2 or 3 people at a job, everybody looks the same, and it's been back to me and saying, "You guys all look the same." You all look like you're here to do business.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
So I'm sorry.
Thank you for that. And that's what these are pearls of wisdom that we want to hear. So I have. I'm just making a note of what you just said. I like that. Here to do, but looks like you're here to do business. I like that a lot. Okay, so you got. I love this. You got bored. You did another business, and you doubled the size of your building, and you bought another truck mount. And so that's a good way to get over boredom, I suppose. But you're challenging yourself, and I think that's instructive as well. You're not just settling for the status quo. So I want to go now to, in the few minutes we have remaining, talk about the Better Your Best contest. And before I do that, you know what? I'm talking about, wouldn't it be cool to have some sort of a reunion event with individuals who have been part of Piranha Marketing, part of the Platinum Plus program, attended boot camps before. We do some sort of a reunion event where we get together and not just spend 30 minutes with Len and Annette, but they're perhaps on the stage with other Better Your Best champions, and we spend a lot of time going deep with some of this stuff. Wouldn't that be nice? Would you guys like that?
If it's in a warm climate, I'd love it.
That'd be awesome.
Okay, good. We'll keep that. We'll take that under advisement.
Just not November. Not November.
Okay. So you won the contest, Better Your Best. And the Better Your Best contest, again, just to review, it was taking really a portion of the year before, the previous year. What did you do during these at least 3 months and then compare what you did the same 3 months or more the current year. So you're competing against yourself. You bettered your best more than any others who were in the contest. So if you can help us understand, what did you do? What happened during the year you won that beautiful red Corvette? What were some of the things that you did differently that would be instructive for us?
I got to put it in context, because when I went to the first boot camp, I went by myself. I came back and said, Annette, we have to join Platinum.
Uh-huh.
And it was a huge, our dollar was worth 65 cents. So it was a huge chunk. And she looked at me and she said, as long as we implement what we learned.
Oh.
So we did. And that sort of sets up for the Better Your Best contest.
So that meant we had to go in the contest right off the start. Right?
So the 100 and Joe's book, I forget the name.
106 strategy book.
Yeah, the strategy book. We combed through that, and we didn't try to do them all at once, but we picked what you could get on the books, get to 80% and kick it out the door and get it going. You know, badges, systems, all
guarantees.
Sorts of guarantees. Free room of cleaning, which we still use today.
Mm-hmm.
We still use free room of cleaning as a bait for clients. So we doing all those things, and we documented it. We developed our marketing plans in that year, and then we did it. We implemented it. Simple as that. But we couldn't try to do all 106.
That is so instructive. I love it. By the way, did you use a client newsletter? Do you still use a client newsletter?
Yes.
Tell us about that. How valuable is that to you?
Well, we electronically send the newsletter. So if I can elaborate a little bit on some of that, it was newsletter, which goes to marketing, which talks all about relationships. So relationships are important in so many levels, not only to clients, right? So you want to market to your client. You want to have a relationship with your client. That's people do business with people who they know, like, and trust, and it's a good relationship. So, you know, in that model and doing all that, it was learning that, tracking everything we did. We tracked everything. That's something we learned in that contest. And we do that today, Tim. We track everything. We track the call that comes in and how we got it, where did we get it, how did we get it. So that was one of the integral things that we learned with Piranha and doing the contest, and we still do it today.
What's Joe say? Things that you things that you measure improve. Things that you measure and report on improve exponentially.
Yes.
So
Pearson's law.
That reporting in that time was reporting to the group, you know, the Better Your Best contest. But now everything we measure goes into reports that we read and look at.
Yes.
How many dollars did we get off our website? How many off of Yellow Pages and all those things? We have all that stuff, and we look at it, report it. That allows us to improve it exponentially.
What would have happened? What would have happened if you never got involved with Piranha and all of the marketing help and stuff? What I know it's hard to say, but if you were looking into a crystal ball in retrospect, where would your life be if you didn't get involved?
I'd be probably doing something completely different, as Annette would be.
Yeah,
probably back in retail, which she absolutely loves. So yeah, we'd be probably working for other people.
Would you have a Corvette?
We wouldn't have that. That's for sure.
We just took it out this weekend. It just came out of storage.
Oh, good. Annette, go slow. Slow
Okay.
down, slow down. For those of you who don't know, Annette did confess that she got a ticket driving that car. and she will never reveal the speed, not even to Len. So,
Nor the size of the ticket. That was
oh yes. All right. So in this third section of this podcast episode, you talked about challenging yourself. You talked about joining Platinum, and I asked you, what did you do different that year that you won the contest? And you said you implemented what you learned. I think that's really important. It's like, okay, like even so let's take this for example. Individuals are listening to this podcast episode, whether they're in the business for a day, for 20 years, 30 years. You've shared some insights that are really, really valuable. And so even implementing the things that you have discussed today on this episode will be beneficial. But you became implementation machines. I like how you said you took Joe's strategies manual and you didn't try to do everything. And I think that's so important because some will get that. They'll gain access to that. And they'll think, oh my gosh, okay, let me do number 1. Now let me do number 2. Now let me do number 3. And I've got to do all 106. I love that. I think that's instructive. You didn't do everything. And you said something, Len. I love this. You said we didn't have to get it perfect. We got it 80% right, and then we implemented. Some people, they never implement because they don't think that the letter or the newsletter or the script or whatever it might be is perfect. You just went out and you did it. You offered guarantees. You offered a free room of cleaning. And these are old staples, but some people still aren't doing that as well. You documented everything. You tracked everything. I love Pearson's quote. You said Pearson's law, that which is measured improved, that which is measured and reported exponentially. So it's going to improve when we track. You developed a marketing plan. You implemented the use of the client newsletter. And Annette, I love what you said in terms of relationships. It's about building relationships with your clients. So all of that, I think, is a great review. There's things in there that we can all do, I think, even better. Is there anything you would add to that?
It all sounds overwhelming. Even I get overwhelmed hearing what you're saying.
Yeah.
It is a work in process. The thing to do is never get overwhelmed. Just take 1 or 2 things and say, by the end of the month, I'm going to have this out the door. And, next month, it's going to be a small improvement, but it'll be an improvement. And then once that's working, so you got that little improvement each month, then you put something else on top of it. And for the smaller starting businesses, mid-size, it's probably more impactful than it is for us now, because a new thing that generates an extra $20,000 in business sort of gets buried. But $20,000 to somebody who's doing 100 or 150,000, that's a lot of money in their pocket, So those incremental increases are what to go for, and not get overwhelmed by where I'm going to be, where I need to be off in the future. As Annette said, look back and celebrate the fact that something is going right. Yes.
I like that, incremental increases. So some will say, okay, you 5 times your business, 250 to 1.2 million. And wow, I want to do that. Well, that didn't happen overnight, did it? That was incremental. And so I love that, picking 2 things a month. I love the old quote. I think it's Dan Sullivan, it's about progress, not perfection. So, doing something, taking action, learning from our mistakes, striving to go from half to elf, but not being frustrated when we're not to elf quite yet. That takes time. So anyway, I think this has been wonderful. Thank you. And Annette, I'm going to try to give the Italian pronunciation of Marchionda.
You did it.
Oh, yes.
Got it, Tim.
As we say in North America, Marchionda. So, you know what? Let's close this. Thank you both so much. You are so awesome. And these are things that you think about and just maybe every day to you. A lot of this is going to be like lights on for others. So thank you so much for sharing in this podcast episode. You guys have always been that way, always been about sharing. What can I do to help and uplift others? So thank you for that.
Well, you get that reunion thing put together. We'll see you there, Tim.
Okay, that would be awesome. So, famous last words from each of you. Anything that you would like to say to conclude?
Oh, goodness. Well, relationships and are important with your clients, but they're important with your mentors, coaches, JV relationships, which is something else we learned through Joe. It was through those relationships that allowed us to buy our building, if you remember, and buy the business that Len was talking about was a joint venture of ours, a retailer who heavily referred us. That's the business we bought. Wow. So we had that relationship. And that's been instrumental in where we've gotten today. So that was huge. And one other thing I can mention in starting out or you're in your growth is try to put a little money aside, and so that you're able to seize an opportunity when it presents itself. I'm not sure who mentioned this, but it might even be Joe or something I read. Luck is nothing other than being able to seize an opportunity when it presents itself. So if you have, that little bit set aside, you might be able to do that. And that's been something else that's really been able to push us forward a little bit as well.
The first check every month is a little money that goes into a savings account. The business owns the money, not us. But anyways, that's good advice. I guess my words of wisdom is two things. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't try to do too many things. Slow but steady really does work.
Yes.
And remember to have some fun.
Yeah.
Work hard, play hard, enjoy your family and friends as much as you can. We only get one time around at this, and we're here to add value to the world and add value to our clients and to our family. So just don't get overwhelmed. Just work it.
Excellent. Great advice. Great wisdom. Great counsel. You both are absolutely awesome. Joe Polish will be listening to this. So one thing to say to Joe before we end.
We love you, Joe. And miss you. So hopefully we'll see him soon.
You remember that very famous thing that people used to say was, "Thanks, Joe."
Yeah.
Yes.
That was how people signed off on their videos and that for the Better Your Best contest. And absolutely, for me, it's thanks, Joe, because this sounds. Getting involved with Joe and that thing really was a life changer for us. Yeah, it really was. I mean, we figured out that what was really wrong with our business, most of it was between our ears. Okay? We had the wrong attitude about things. We looked at ourselves as subservient. When you start looking at yourself as we're providing a valuable service, then all of a sudden you can sell it better, So once we got what's going on in our head straight, it helped a lot. So.
Thank you. That's great. There are some listening to this who are not yet part of the Piranha Elite Cleaner program. If you can imagine that, they haven't stepped up. And so everything that you've been talking about here and all those changes and the gratitude to Joe comes through being part of that program. So we would certainly encourage everyone to step up and be a part of this. So thank you again. And you keep up the good work, and I hope to see you soon.
Okay. Thanks, Tim.
Bye, Tim.
Goodbye, everyone. This is Timothy Paulson, Rich Cleaner Podcast. Have a tremendous